Check 1 2 1 2. What it do? What it do? The name is Matthew Farina. They also call me Matty Ice, and this is another episode of the Eat the Fruit podcast.
Nice. My name's Trevor. I was on the first episode of the Eat the Fruit podcast, and both me and Dan here and Matt were all roommates. So glad to be here.
And you were playing hooky last week, dude, when we were recording. Where were you at? You were in Texas?
I was in big old Texas.
Huge tracts of land. I've used that joke before. I'll use it again because twice is always nice.
Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Big.
Oh, yeah. I had to... big old Texas. I had to get out of the way of the hurricane. Hurricane Irma, I think, was her name. And she was visiting Jacksonville, and I did not want to be here when she was here. So I went to Texas when the hurricane hit Jax. So I got to miss out on all the great weather y'all were having.
It was getting real gnarly. Dan and I toughed it out, and to be completely honest, it's a miracle that we're here right now recording, that this studio is actually still standing, because downtown Jacksonville was hit really, really hard, and that's where this studio is located. Huge shout out to WJCT for letting us use their facilities. This is a major plus. But this area, our work's been shut down for like a month now.
Still closed right now.
I think it's actually supposed to open today.
We just drove by there. We just drove by the hotel.
And it was closed still?
Yeah.
I mean, it is Friday. It's Friday the 13th, so you can't expect a whole lot. But we want to go ahead and jump right into things. We're super stoked about the episode that we have planned for you guys today. Even while we were driving over here, Trev told me, he's like, Matthew, I just have a good feeling about this recording. It's going to be a lot of fun, super informative, and always entertaining. And Dan, what's the topic for today?
I'm Dan. Hi. The topic today is health and exercising.
Health, fitness, and nutrition.
Health, fitness, and
a
nutrition.
major key alert.
And today's a special episode because we not only have one guest or one expert, but two experts in health and fitness. One is going to be my friend Robert, who's calling in, and Dan is also in nursing school. So if you're ever just having a quick pain in your chest or numbness down your left arm or upset stomach or diarrhea.
Call Dan.
Call Dan, especially the diarrhea.
He's out here saving lives.
He is. But so today our guest is going to be Robert, my friend who I met at Gainesville Health and Fitness, which is a gym that we're going to talk about. Great gym back in our hometown of Gainesville, and he's a personal trainer. So he's going to give us some cool tips and inside tricks to get just totally yoked and totally ripped.
Totally jacked. I'm glad, though, that you brought up Gainesville Health and Fitness, because Robert is going to be calling in a few minutes, and I know once that interview gets started, we're going to really be getting into the intricacies of health, fitness, and nutrition and some of his personal philosophies. But right now, I want to read off some statistics about Gainesville Health and Fitness, because this was just kind of like this iconic landmark in the city where Trev and Dan and I grew up, Gainesville, Florida, which is a small town. It's really known for the University of Florida. Go Gators. But let me read off some of these awards that Gainesville Health and Fitness has won over the past 20 years, because this will just give you guys a sense of what kind of health and fitness club this thing really is. So starting in 1996, it was named among the top 8 health clubs in the USA by Men's Health magazine. That's a super popular magazine.
It's a great year.
Yeah, 1996. That's when I was born. Joe Cerulli, the founder and CEO of Gainesville Health and Fitness Center, was a recipient of the club industry's Lifetime Achievement Award, the highest in the industry, and he won that in 2012. And he actually has a book. Do you know what that book is called? It's kind of like this whole, it has the whole theme, rags to riches, and how he started off with like only a few bucks.
Yeah.
And now Gainesville Health and Fitness is one of the most profitable health clubs in North America. Let that sink in for a second. One of the most profitable health clubs in North America. And we got to use it for free, because that's one of the things that was really cool for Dan and I, is our parents both worked at Gainesville Health and Fitness growing up. Our father was a personal trainer, a group fitness instructor, and he did group personal training. And then our mother is still a group fitness instructor over there, as well as our dad. And so they've been very interconnected. And so Dan and I growing up got a behind the scenes look at how this fitness center kind of came to be, because over the last 10 to 15 years, it's continued to just expand and develop. up and incorporate a lot of cool things into it, like their personal training program, which is what Robert did, according to Trevor. He went through their kind of certification process.
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually was employed at Gainesville Health and Fitness. I was a floor instructor there, which pretty much I was like a very low-level personal trainer. I helped people out on a very specific sets of machines. But Robert was actually in the personal training program, and he was, I don't think he was like certified then, but he's certified now. And so like just through talking to him, I found out he's a bro, knows a lot about nutrition and health. We talked a lot about that. And yeah, I mean, we'll probably provide a link for his Instagram. If you're just looking for some muscle motivation, just for huge pecs, like check this guy out, and give him a call if you're in the Orlando area and you want to get healthy.
Yes, because from what Robert said when we were talking to him earlier this week, he's moved to Orlando. Ladies, don't get too excited. He does have some shirtless pictures on there. Actually has quite a lot of them. And I tell you what, he has an impressive physique.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately, here's the thing. There's so much
Have we said that enough?
But there's so much information on the internet today. Sometimes it can be hard to try to kind of sort your way through it all, and it's hard to decide what to believe. So we want to provide you guys today with some hard factual data and not just our own theories and opinions. Yes, there will be some of that injected in there just because we want things to be organic and free-flowing, but at the end of the day, we want to kind of back up the statements that we're making. That way you guys can benefit from it. But it sounds like Robert is calling in.
Yep.
Trev, if you want to hit the on button right there that's blinking. Yeah. Robert, you there, buddy?
I am indeed here.
Robert James, ladies and gentlemen. He has two first names because he never finishes last. Robert, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, man. How are you guys?
Good. We're good, dude. We're here in the studio knocking out this podcast, and yeah, we're happy to have you.
Excellent, man. I'm happy to be here supporting what you guys are doing. I think it's great. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure. So let's hop right into it, dude. This episode is about health and fitness, and in every episode we usually have a topic, and then we have someone that has a interesting perspective about that topic or an expert opinion. So we're just going to ask you some questions, just hear your philosophy behind how to get jacked in the gym, and hopefully you'll provide us with some really cool answers.
Excellent, man. Sounds good.
All right.
One of the first things, Robert, that we want to start off with is this whole idea of creating sustainable and feasible workout and dieting practices, because you'll see a lot of people, it'll be January 1st, they will have those New Year's resolutions, they'll be in the gym, they'll work hard for a month or two, and then things will really peter out. So in your own life and in some of the other people that you've observed, what do you think is most important to cultivating sustainable and feasible kind of workout routines?
Honestly, man, I think it first starts with actually being honest with yourself. I think a lot of people really think that they have to do 6 or 7 workouts in a week, which is, ridiculous. I don't even do that myself. So I think a lot of people, especially people with just general fitness goals, would be a lot better off if they were to just focus on main compound movements like 2 or 3 times a week, for example. A lot of times people start out really good, like you said, whenever they come in on January 1st and they're like, okay, I'm going to come 6 times a week. I think if you were to be more realistic with yourself, then in the long run, you might be better off. You could be doing the best program ever written by any person ever. It doesn't matter if you don't actually show up and put in the work. So if you were to do a great program for 2 months, you might see some progress. But if you were to do a subpar program for 4 years, you'd really be surprised when you look at yourself in the mirror after all that time. So I think that's really one of the biggest things, is people just really want to start out doing too much. And especially as a beginner, you really don't even need the volume or the workload that you're trying to put on yourself in the beginning. A lot of it is just diminishing returns. You're not really getting the benefit from all of those other exercises that you might be doing in addition to the compound movements that you're already doing.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. And just for our listeners, Robert, because I forgot to ask this at the beginning, what is the specific certification that you've earned?
I got my certification through NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, which is probably one of the most reputable organizations that you can go through to get your certification. It's pretty much nationally accepted. Pretty much any gym is going to hire you, or at least put you in consideration for hiring you if you have that certification.
And how long did it take to earn that certification? Is that like a year-long process or 2 years?
Really, it can be as long as you need it to be. I don't think that it's necessary to try and cram it in as fast as you can. Personally, whenever you buy your package or whatever the case is, you have 6 months from buying the package to take the test. But you can purchase all the information and stuff, and you can take longer than that if you need to really do that. So realistically, it's as long or as short as you need it to be to read the textbook and then feel confident enough to actually go through and take the test.
Well, it certainly sounds like a pretty intensive curriculum, and just an opportunity to really learn a lot of the, the hard data that's kind of behind all these different practices and routines and theories. What's one of your main philosophies when it comes to fitness and nutrition and just overall physical health?
I think that the biggest thing is being in this for the long run. I really cannot say it enough that consistency is going to be the biggest thing. You can do as many crash diets or as many 30-day booty workouts as you want, but you're never going to get the results if that's all you ever do. Because a lot of times they'll maybe see results after a month or two of doing whatever it is that they're doing, and then they'll go right back into whatever they were doing before. So a lot of times they'll rebound. So at that point, you'll go back to eating whatever you were doing or not working out as often as you were, and then you'll find that you might even end up in a worse place than you were before. You say, okay, I look good now, so that sort of excuses me to eat a little bit more than I was before. Or even, you could be saying, this diet is really hard, and then you'll eat one Oreo or something like that, and then you'll go on and you'll say, oh, well, I messed up my diet, I might as well just eat the whole pack now. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of times it's not about trying to do something as quickly as possible, but I really appreciate what you guys do. It's really building sustainable habits and trying to do things in a slow, controlled manner. So a lot of times what I'll have people do is add things in, like workouts, or take things out, like trigger foods, so to speak, in a slow, controlled manner, and make sustainable switches. One of the things that I like to do, for example, is maybe make the switch from drinking regular soda to diet soda. Somebody drinking 3 or 4 sodas a day could be getting 800 or more calories just from soda. So if they just make that one simple switch from drinking soda to diet soda, it's possible that they could even start losing a pound a week or more just from that one simple thing. So like I said, it's all about being able to do something that you can actually sustain in the long run, because the longer you do something, that's what's really going to guarantee the results that you want.
Yeah. And that's something that I found really interesting when I started talking to you, specifically nutrition. There's so much data. There's so many fad diets. There's so many people claiming they have the secret to looking really good, to losing a bunch of weight, building a bunch of muscle through nutrition. And it seems like every year, there's a new scientific study that says, oh, the high protein thing's bad. Oh, the keto's this way to go. Oh no, the keto, don't do the keto. And you seem, whenever I talk to you, not to focus as much on the diet itself, but the calorie counting. And I know that depends on what goal you have, but could you just give us a little rundown of kind of what you had told me initially about your, the idea that you have about calorie counting in your nutrition?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I follow a principle that is commonly called flexible dieting. So it's based around this idea that the calories is really what counts. So for the general population, usually if they want to lose a little bit of weight or gain a little bit of weight or whatever the case is, so calories is just a unit of energy. So if you think about it like that, in order to gain weight, you need to be in an energy surplus. Or if you want to lose weight, you need to be in an energy deficit, for example. So the whole idea behind flexible dieting is that you can really eat sort of whatever you want within certain parameters. And then you can still lose weight. And even more important than that is psychological health. Like, a lot of people will go on a diet. They're not even counting calories or anything. They're just eating chicken, rice, and broccoli for 3 to 6 square meals a day, whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're not getting the results that they want. So I think a lot of people sort of put their focus on the wrong things. But, yeah, overall calories is going to be king, and then macronutrients, you can sort of think of it as like king and queen in that sense.
And what are macronutrients?
Macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fat. So those are going to be the 3 nutrients that provide calories. So if something doesn't have protein, carbs, or fat, then it will not have calories.
Okay. And compared to micronutrients, that's just like vitamins and stuff like that, or
right? Yeah, micronutrients is vitamins and minerals. So like my practice personally for flexible dieting, I focus heavily on, in this order as well, calories, protein, fiber, micronutrients. So if we're talking from a body composition standpoint, those are going to be, in that order, the way things should go if body composition is your goal. So protein is going to be the big thing, and a lot of times carbohydrates and fat can be sort of interchangeable. I don't want people to get stuck on some arbitrary carb or fat number that they feel like is going to, for some reason, give them a better result than if they were to just sort of hit their protein and then meet their calorie goal.
I really like that, Robert. That's some really interesting stuff, and I think you make a really good point. Oftentimes, instead of trying to be super nitpicky when it comes to our diets, it's kind of like if we have these broad overarching principles and then we stick to those principles, those can act as a guide instead of this strict regiment that we feel a tremendous amount of pressure to follow. The one thing that I will add, though, to your point, and something that Trevor and I have been going back and forth on this week with the whole calorie counting thing, is that only works up to a certain extent, because at the end of the day, certain food items are more nutritionally rich than others. And so, yes, while you do want to count calories, I think it's also important to be mindful and aware of those food items that are nutritionally rich compared to others. So that's like the difference between eating a plate of chicken and rice versus frappuccino and a muffin from Starbucks. Those two things might have the same level of calories, but obviously there's a significant difference between the nutritional value in the Starbucks meal and then the home-cooked chicken and rice.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to preface by saying this is only for body composition, the whole calories, protein, and then fiber and micronutrients. That's really, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this concept called if it fits your macros. But I sort of don't advocate that necessarily, because then people can sort of get this idea that as long as they're hitting their macros, it doesn't really matter what they're eating. That's why instead I like to say flexible dieting. So for most people, I think if you're eating, for example, if you were to meet your calories, protein, micronutrients, fiber, it's pretty hard to eat crap all day and still hit all of those guidelines. So if you're following those basic principles, it's pretty easy. If you look at your diet throughout the day, you're probably eating 80 to 85% whole nutritious foods, and then sort of 15% of whatever you want within reason. And I think that eating what you want is important for overall adherence to a diet, because like I said earlier, some people can sort of go a little bit off track and then decide that, okay, the diet doesn't matter anymore because I messed it up a little bit. So I think if you have these, like you said, these overarching concepts in your head that you should stick to, it's a lot easier to just maybe, even if you go a little bit over on your diet or you eat something that maybe you shouldn't have, it's easy to say like, okay, well, that's all I'm going to eat like for the day in terms of whatever that is. And then you can sort of have a much better relationship with food, as weird as that might sound to the layperson. But you'll see a lot of people with like binge eating disorders or things like that. They're just not, they don't have sustainable habits. And I think that's really the bread and butter of all this.
Dope. And I feel like that leads into our next kind of point that we wanted to discuss with you, because although fitness and nutrition are, inherently good, in my opinion, and they can add a lot of value to your life, and it makes people feel, just better about themselves. Ultimately, I feel like that fitness is nothing if it doesn't add to your life as a whole, as your relationships, your, just the habits throughout your day outside of fitness. So we just wanted to talk to you about that, man. Your relationship dynamics.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay. But yeah, you have a funny picture on your Instagram that's like a before and after when you were, I don't know, I guess you were in high school or something, and then a picture recently. And the change is hilarious. You're like a skinny little white dude in one picture, and then the next picture, you're just like hulking out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So is there a difference that you've noticed just in like your mindset or the way that just you conduct yourself after really establishing fitness as a solid habit in your life?
Yeah, man. So and even when I started, I feel like it's a lot of trial and error. So in the beginning, I wasn't doing pretty much anything right. So my first year was a lot of wheel spinning. I made some progress just because I was a beginner, but I think what you said earlier is really important. A lot of people will lose sight of why they're actually lifting. If it doesn't enrich your life, then I really don't know why you're even doing it, honestly. I think a lot of people can get so neurotic and so caught up with, and you'll see this with people who track macros obsessively. I don't do so myself. You'll see people who will just take it sort of off the deep end. They're being super neurotic. They bring their food scale into restaurants with them, and at that point, I think it's not really enriching your life anymore, and it's almost it is the detriment at that point. I mean, you're sort of going out with your friends every so often to go to the gym, when really you could move your gym schedule around, maybe miss a workout or two here and there. Over the course of a year, a few mess ups realistically aren't going to set you back any more than if you were to have gone to the gym every day for the past year or whatever the case is. I think all in all, it's all about having that healthy relationship with dieting and with training. So a lot of people will sort of get addicted to training, and they'll do too much. And I think that is just as bad as maybe not even training at all, because at that point you can really compromise your immune system. You could work yourself into, exhaustion. Overtraining is real. It's not as prevalent as people may say, but it is a real thing. And that's how people with anorexia or bulimia, for example, end up. And just something that I sort of want to compare is, if you think about it, whenever people punish themselves with working out, it's sort of like exercise bulimia. You're purging, in a sense. You're not throwing up the food that you ate, but you are punishing yourself. Instead of saying like, okay, I'm an adult and I made the decision to eat this, you're saying, okay, no, I have to punish myself for eating that, instead of trying to just do better next time.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the big man himself, Robert James. Robert, that's all the time that we have for this interview, but we certainly appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and it sounds like sustainability is the name of the game, and you provided some really helpful insights into kind of cultivating a mindset of feasibility and sustainability when it comes to fitness, nutrition, and just an overall healthy lifestyle. So once again, man, thank you so much for calling in. We loved hearing from you.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead and let you go because it sounds like you got to head into work.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on once again. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to do this. I really respect what you guys are doing. Anybody who wants to help other people enrich their lives in any way possible is something I'm all for.
Amen.
Thanks, Robert.
Amen. And guys, we will be putting Robert's social media information on in the bio, Robert, just so long as that's okay with you. That way people can check you out on social media and get a better sense of where you've been, where you are, and where you're going.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Have a good one, dude.
Take it easy, man.
Have a nice day, guys. Bye.
Well, ladies and gents, that was a really, really good interview. As Trevor said before, Robert is an absolute homie, and I really appreciated hearing some of the different thoughts that he shared, because I think it is really, really important to do what he said, where instead of just jumping right into things and being balls to the walls, having this long-term attitude and knowing that you're going to be in it for the long haul, and so keeping a pace that is sustainable for your lifestyle. But another individual that I want to hear from is old Dan the man. You've been awfully quiet this afternoon. I'm sure you're probably tired after your big exam this morning, but from what you're learning in nursing school, how does some of the different things that Robert share apply to people when it comes to healthcare?
Well, the first point I'd like to make is we definitely see a different demographic of people. He's working with people that are trying to improve their lives, and most of the time, the people I see are sick and are trying to get better. From the clients that I've been able to help, I've noticed that when it comes to fitness, the high-protein diet definitely puts a lot of stress on your liver and your kidneys. And I think that's not talked about a lot, because it does take a decent amount of time, but over time. And I don't think that our caller was talking. I feel like he was very bless you.
Thank you.
Balanced with his dieting, but I did appreciate when he was talking about how people don't need to go overboard, because when you do go overboard, at the end of the day, it's about knowing your body. That's kind of what I've seen, because medicine can be an art, more than a science sometimes, and people don't get that. So at the end of the day, you have to know yourself and know how you feel, because we have a ton of research, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for how you feel.
Being in a hospital setting and a clinical setting around doctors and stuff like that, do you see a difference between like the attitude that Robert and like we kind of share, where we push fitness, we push nutrition as a means to live a healthy life, whether that's internally, like disease prevention, or just mental health? Do you see a difference between that and kind of and this is, I'm just going off kind of what I understand and what I've heard, but like how doctors a lot of time will see problems like that, and instead of saying, oh, you should work out more, blah blah blah, they kind of use
they just prescribe something instead of dealing with the underlying issue. They just want to mask the symptom, which I think is a topic worth addressing in healthcare.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's just like, take a couple of Tylenol and you're good to go.
I would agree, but they are trained in curative medicine, which means that when someone comes to them with a problem, it's their duty to fix it. I feel like nursing is, it's called a holistic approach to health, and so it's more of the nurse's job to. Teaching is a big part of our job, so a big responsibility of ours that I feel like a lot of people don't know is that we're supposed to teach them, the home health, who they need to contact. If they're elderly, basically just like the stuff you guys are talking about, that's more of a nurse, because I feel like a nurse's responsibility, because the doctor, is trained in curative medicine. He knows the pathophysiology of, whatever's going on, and he's going to do, everything in his power to cure that. And if it doesn't work, then you do diagnostics and look for the bigger problem. That's like how they're trained.
And that's so interesting for me to hear, and probably for all three of us to hear, because as Dan and I said before, we grew up with parents that were heavily involved in the fitness community, and so we've been exposed to all of these different themes and ideas and lifestyles at a very young age. And so to me, I would just assume that everybody would know this stuff. And I'm sure Trevor feels the same way, because your parents are very active as well.
Yeah.
In fact, both of Trevor's parents are nurses in Gainesville, and our mother is a nurse as well, and she actually just started working as a nurse again. She took a little bit of a hiatus because she had 5 children. God bless her. Shout out, Mom, to you. We love you. But there's a lot of people that just go through their lives and they're never really taught what it means to live a healthy lifestyle. And that's one of the big reasons why we wanted to make this the theme of our episode today, to really bring a lot of value to your guys' life, because we realize that a lot of our listeners out there, they don't have the experience or expertise to make certain tweaks just to kind of like their daily lives that could be absolutely huge as far as their overall mental and physical health. And I know some of the different things that I've said may seem a little highfalutin or intimidating, but at the end of the day, like Robert says, it just comes down to feasibility. And like Dan said, self-awareness. And so if you're aware of yourself, if you're aware of how you feel and the kind of food that you're eating and putting into your body and the amount of sleep that you're getting and the kind of fluids that you're drinking, that's a really critical start. And I think that's super, super important and something that we always come back to. Even this week, I've just been keeping a little food journal and just jotting down what I've been eating every day. And that's been so helpful for me just as a reminder of, okay, am I staying on track? Am I sticking to my goals?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm definitely not on your level, Matt, or even yours, Trevor, when it comes to health. But, you know, for people like me, I feel like it's understanding the responsibility that, you know, you're in charge of your own health. And you guys have taken, you know, a lot of responsibility with that. And a lot of people, I feel like, are like, oh, I don't have time or space in my life, which I definitely feel like. But it was funny. To quote a doctor friend of mine, that's not, you know, that's your problem. So.
Well, and that's so crazy is that there's a lot of people that won't take responsibility for their health because there's been this huge epidemic that swept through America over probably the last 10 to 15 years with like the whole obesity crisis and fast food just blowing up and becoming super popular. And a lot of people throw their personal health to the wayside because of things like school and work and family. And all of those things are extremely important, and we have to devote our time to them as functioning members in Western society. But just because we're really involved in all those different activities and with all those people doesn't mean we should sacrifice our own personal well-being.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, as a practical step, kind of what Robert said, going back to that, is that, you know, we've presented, if you're listening to this, we've presented a lot of information here, a lot of different people's opinions. And it could be kind of confusing or overwhelming. Even, you know, talking to Robert for, you know, a period of 20 minutes, you're like, oh, this dude knows a lot. Like, how can I, you know, like, what am I going to do? You just got to take like a one step at a time. You know, you got to change one thing in your life. Like he said, you know, you take out sodas or you go, okay, this week on Wednesday, I'm going to go for a 1 mile run. Okay, that felt pretty good. Well,
or
next
just a
Wednesday,
walk. Just go for a walk.
Yeah, or a walk. Or change something about your diet. You know, I'm not going to eat that dessert. You know, this night, or if I go out drinking, I'm not going to go to tacos and stuff my face with, you know, delicious meats.
Taco fucks.
As
We don't use a ton of profanity on this podcast, but when it comes to Taco Bell, I think the term is warranted. It is just absolute shit food, and that's why our nickname for Taco Bell is Taco Fucks.
Taco fucks. It's earned its name.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, and a healthy lifestyle is totally attainable for anyone out there. If you want to change your body, if you want to change, you know, something physiological about yourself, like you have high blood pressure or you get migraines and stuff like that. Not saying that fitness is, you know, the cure-all for everything, but
it's a good start.
It's a cure-all for just about everything. You know, mental health, stuff like that. I've talked to friends who, you know, have struggled with anxiety or depression. I'm like, okay. Do you work out? You know, do you exert yourself? Do you work up a sweat? No, I don't have time, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I totally understand that. You know, everyone's busy. But, you know, cardio, lifting weights, all that stuff where you get the oxygen to your brain, you know, your body will like release, you know, hormones that make you feel less anxious.
Those endorphins.
You'll feel calmer. Exactly. And, you know, if that's something that you want to step up and, you know, try to pursue, it's totally attainable. You know, anyone can do it. And, you know, there's tons of information out there, but you just got to take that first step. That's all it's about.
Being healthy is a privilege.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Good.
It really is.
But
hell yeah.
Trev, what you just said is so, so key, because at the end of the day, it's just about taking the next step. Our father, Andy Farina, once again, much love to you as well, Dad. He's actually the CEO of Fearless Health, which is an organization that incorporates fitness and nutrition into leadership development. So he does a lot of life coaching, a lot of lifestyle development, a lot of just kind of like one-on-one interaction with clients, as well as different businesses. Businesses will hire him to kind of come in and meet with some of their top managers and leaders. And he has this whole curriculum and stuff that he takes them through. But one of my dad's favorite mantras is take the next step. You don't have to go out and run a fucking marathon. You just have to take the next step. And that's what Robert is referring to when he's talking about feasibility and sustainability. Instead of just jumping right into things, because that's what we all want to do. We all get really excited. We all get really passionate. We all want to make a change. But it's like we have to harness that energy and direct it into something that's good and something that lasts.
I mean, life's about habit. So at the end of the day, it's just putting in the reps, because, you know, if you do it today and you do it tomorrow, it's an object in motion stays in motion.
Yeah. And another point that I want to bring up, because it's really related to where I am at right now. You know, there's the analogy of like being on the wagon and falling off the wagon. And recently, as far as just weightlifting go, I used to be weightlifting probably like 2 or 3 times a week for the past few months. And recently, since like we've been just traveling a bunch, I haven't really gotten back on it. But it's not about like staying on the wagon and having the little badge that says, oh, I've been doing this for 2 years straight. You know, everyone falls off the wagon. That's something I hear a lot from really successful people. You know, and it's not about, you know, feeling shame or whatever. It's about just getting back on it. You know, being humble enough to say, okay, like I'm not pretending I'm this like freaking gym freak, you know, top of the game, like no one can touch me. You know, because we like to think that when they're like lifting deadlifts, we're like, you can't, I'm so ripped.
Which is a natural
You know,
reaction.
it is. And you want to feel like you're, you know, just a total, you know, freak in the gym or whatever, or just feeling, you know, sexy or whatever. And it's just about, you know, kind of putting that ego aside and just going back in, because there's times where no one wants to be healthy. Even guys like, you know, your dad and Robert, I'm sure that they have times where they're like, screw this whole like being fit thing, you know, but everyone feels that to a certain extent, and it's just about getting back on there.
And Trev hasn't said this today, but he said it before, and I think it's worth repeating. Life is very cyclical. And so as Dan mentioned, the kind of habits that you're cultivating eventually contribute to your overall lifestyle. They contribute to your persona, to your life. And so that's why these little changes can make such a significant difference over an extended period of time. Even if it's just cutting soda out of your dinners, if you drink soda at dinners, or if
or
it's
fat, or fatty liver is like a crisis.
Yeah,
an epidemic, I guess.
Cirrhosis of the liver. That's huge too. If you think about how
alcohol and fat are the number one killers of the liver.
Unless you're like eating duck liver and you want a nice fatty duck liver.
Yeah. Do that.
Dan and I aren't convinced.
I'm the only one.
Utter and complete
I mean,
silence.
I could eat a duck liver maybe. I've
Ooh,
never
yeah.
had one. Are
Yeah.
they good?
Yeah,
some
I
yum
forgot.
yum sauce?
There's a certain name they have for it.
Maybe in some
they used to serve it
pasta.
at this restaurant. I don't remember the
The
name of it.
turducken, that was like a really popular thing on the Food Network.
Oh,
it was
turkey duck.
It was where like a duck was stuffed inside of a
Oh, a
chicken.
chicken.
So if you want to kill yourself, eat
and then
that thing.
stuffed inside of a turkey.
Yeah.
on top
Might
of
be
that.
worth it.
Ooh, let's do it.
It's
Blow some gravy, some potatoes, mashed potatoes.
Ooh.
It's brutal. Well, gentlemen, I hate to
Some
be the bearer
cranberry
of bad
sauce.
news, but that is all the time that we have for today. This has been really, really fun. Trev's hypothesis that this was going to be our best episode yet, I think, is certainly valid. I really, really enjoyed our conversation with Robert, and I loved our conversation with one another. So we are going to be getting back in the lab, whipping up that stanky dank, because we're already putting scripts together for episodes coming up. We're planning on getting a doctor to call in, and that we're going to interview just about some of the different kind of social dynamics within the medical field. And once again, Dan will be able to speak to that as far as the experience that he's gaining being a nursing student. Make sure that you check us out on social media. We're going to have our social media posted in the bio along with Robert's. So that is a great way to find us. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We can't ask that enough. I feel so basic for saying that, but it's like that's what keeps the engine running.
Oh, yeah.
Every time we see a subscriber, that's just like a little pat on our ass. Like, you guys are doing a good job. Keep at it.
And who doesn't love a good, just a little pat on the ass from a bro?
I don't know.
The old attaboy.
Attaboy, yeah.
Attaboy.
So if you have any friends or family member that would like this content, or you feel like could learn some of this stuff, please feel free to give us a shout out. We'll show the love right back at you.
We
but
love
like
the
we
heck
said,
out of you guys.
We do. We have a lot of
we
love
really
to give.
love ya.
We have a lot of love. But yeah, like Matt said, that's it for today. So, all right, we're peacing out.
Yeah, for
Thank you,
Dan
guys.
Farina and Trevor Baldwin, I'm Matthew Farina saying so long from Jacksonville, Florida, where this has been another episode of the Eat the Fruit podcast.
Woo!
Peace.